Welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I'm the Fat Guy. How are you? Most people just call me Brett. I answer to a lot of names, though. I'm a guy that was fat from 5 years old, up and, 6, something like that. I was fat very early, wearing the husky jeans early. I've lost 125 pounds. I've done it without any kind of surgery or pills or poking or prodding or any kind of insanity. Done most of it on a ketogenic diet, and I now help people and encourage people and even coach people to lose weight on a ketogenic diet. So a quick disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I have no formal medical training, and I am not qualified, nor do I intend to give any medical advice. Before you begin any kind of a diet or weight loss program, you should always consult with a qualified medical official type person who can evaluate you personally, okay? It's very, very important. Nothing I say during this podcast should be construed as medical advice. All I'm sharing is my personal experiences and my personal opinions. No more than that. You can download the Spreaker app and review all of the podcasts I've done very easily. So if you want to know my plan for trying it out for a short period of time, it's a simple stripped down plan, but it at least lets you try it for a few days. If you want to know about electrolytes, you want to know about keto flu, you want to know about what foods you can't, if you want to know all these things, there's an episode for just about everything. Download the Spreaker app, Spreaker. Once you download it, it's free. Search for Fat Guy Podcast. Once you find Fat Guy Podcast, favorite it and follow it, and you'll be updated about new episodes, and you'll also be able to scroll back and look at every previous episode. You can also follow us on all the social media. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. Doesn't matter if you're wanting me on Snap, you want me on Instagram, you want me on Twitter, you want me on Facebook, on all of them. It's Fat Guy Podcast, all one word, so it's all run together, okay? Each of those social medias have a different purpose. So on Snapchat, I generally share what I'm eating every day. Now, I don't do every meal every day, but I do a lot. Facebook, I share articles. I share links to my podcast. I share success stories. I share pictures of food sometimes. I share before and after. So a little bit of everything going on Facebook. On Instagram, mostly before and afters, but I do share some other things. And then Twitter is kind of a hodgepodge of everything. I don't interact on Twitter that much. If you want to speak with me, you want to ask me a question, you want to consult me about coaching, shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook is the best way to do that, okay? Fat Guy Podcast is what you're looking for. So, on today's show, we're going to be talking about who should not do a ketogenic diet. I get asked this all the time. Oh, is it safe for me? Or people hear horror stories. So, again, this is my opinion. I'm not a medical professional, but this is from well over a year researching the ketogenic diet and living it personally and helping people. This is my opinion. There are a few people who are hypersensitive or have hyper issues with cholesterol. It's a very tiny percentage of people. And so when they start a ketogenic diet, even after they've been on it a while, their cholesterol will be through the roof. It'll be insane. Now, just to be clear, there's really no credible science, I think, that shows that cholesterol has anything to do with heart disease or any of that. That's old, outdated science from the 70s. What we're learning now from all the research we're seeing is it's actually sugar and high insulin, insulinemia, these type issues, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome. That's what's causing all the heart disease. Your cholesterol is actually running there and trying to patch up the damage. It's kind of like driving by a fire and seeing a bunch of firemen there. And then a week later, you drive by a fire and you see a bunch of firemen there. And then a week later, you go by another fire and you see a bunch of firemen there. And you make the leap that, wow, firemen cause fires. Because every time there's a fire, I see firemen. Same thing with cholesterol. Sure, cholesterol tries to patch up the damage. That seems to be the best science. So, there's a genetic condition that will cause high levels of cholesterol. It could be something you want to look after, but I've read about, I don't know personally, but I've read about people that still do keto even though they're one of those genetically predisposed people. Look, you're probably not. It's a very tiny percentage. Nevertheless, as with anything, always consult a doctor is the best advice. That's something I can't do for you. A ketogenic diet, other than that, pretty much is good for anybody. So we're going to run through a few people that it may be problematic for, or that people that may require some extra close monitoring or studying, or have to change maybe some habits they have. So let's talk first about medicines, taking medicines. So there's a few possibly problematic situations when you go keto. This would be, for instance, if you're on high blood pressure medicine. So your blood pressure is going to get lower pretty quickly after going keto. Once you get those carbs out of your system, once your body releases a bunch of water that doesn't need any more for carbs and all these things start happening, your blood pressure will get lower. So the amount of blood pressure you were taking before will suddenly be too much. This happens a lot. Again, that's why it's good to consult with the doctor. Does that mean you can't do it if you're on blood pressure medicine? I don't think that's what it means at all. I think it means that you have a medical condition that keto could help, but in the early stages of when you're moving over, your normal amount of medicine is not going to be right, and it could lead to serious problems. Same applies to type 2 diabetics. I don't think there's any doubt that the absolute best way for type 2 diabetics to eat is a ketogenic diet. That being said, if you're taking medicine for blood sugar, like insulin, primarily insulin, but some others, but especially insulin, well, after you stop eating the carbs, you're not going to need as much insulin. You need to monitor your blood sugar a lot when you start a ketogenic diet. You need to be monitoring it, 6, 8, 10 times a day. I know that sounds extreme, but you're just not going to need all of that insulin that you were needing before. And so the last thing you want to have is hypoinsulinemia. Okay, you don't or hypoglycemia. I'm sorry. So you don't want that, and that could easily happen with a over injection or overdose of insulin. So again, finding a good doctor that understands keto and understands what you're about to do and understands the need and the methodology for an increased, increased monitoring for blood sugar and stuff. Look, find somebody qualified to help you with that. That's about all I can tell you on that. That being said, if I had type 2 diabetes, I wouldn't let the concern of monitor stop me, because type 2 diabetes will be the thing that gets you off insulin. I can't tell you how many hundreds and hundreds of people that I've met through this ketogenic journey who are not on insulin anymore because they went keto. So if that's your goal, I believe this is the right diet, but just understand you're in a special category. You're going to need, somebody that doesn't have type 2 is not going to have to worry about monitoring that stuff. They're probably going to be fine. The only thing that I would say is if you're a person who is hypoglycemic, and so in other words, you have low drops in blood sugar. So you're not a diabetic or anything, but there's some people who have persistent low drops in blood sugar. You're also somebody that would need extra monitoring. I would consult with a physician. You should be aware that you're a special case. All that being said, after you get keto adapted and you're on this very tiny amount of carbs every day, I think that pretty much works out your problem that you're having. So while it does make you a special case, it's also, if not cure is not the right word, it's the answer to the problem that you're having. So sure, you're a special case, but I don't think that should make you run away from the answer, okay? Again, my opinion, not medical advice. So there's a few other people that have certain types of diseases and issues that should really consider close medical supervision, okay? And this isn't a complete list. It's just the ones I came up with off the top of my head. Gallbladder disease. If you have an extremely diseased gallbladder, since this is a high-fat diet, you could have issues digesting the fat. Now, does that mean you should avoid it? Not necessarily. There's ways around it. I know you can take HCl tablets, which helps with digestion. I know you can take things like ox bile. Again, this isn't medical advice. It's just things I know and have read about. So it's just something you should be aware of, okay? If you've had bariatric surgery, if you've had that, well, for you, fats are real hard to absorb. You're going to run into some issues with fat. And so I have read about people that tried to be keto after having bariatric surgery, but that's not something I'm an expert on. So you just need to be aware that that's something you need to look into and research, okay? There are some people that have really rare metabolic disorders that that will interfere with normal fat metabolism. Okay, I don't know enough to get into that with you. I just know it exists. I think if you have this disorder, you probably already know. Once again, it probably wouldn't hurt to consult with a knowledgeable physician who understands keto and understands fat metabolism, fat absorption, fat digestion, these type things, maybe. Pregnant women or breastfeeding women really need higher levels of protein than a ketogenic diet is. A ketogenic diet is not a high protein diet. It's a high fat diet. It's a moderate protein diet. Atkins is high protein. And people confuse the two all the time. But when you're in that state, having higher levels of proteins and maybe some other nutrients too may be a concern. So you might want to avoid keto or do a very modified version of keto that would work well for pregnant or breastfeeding women. Again, that's something you need to consult with your doctor about. For children, keto isn't necessarily best for a lot of reasons. One, they do need a lot of nutrients, maybe even protein being one of them. Children grow and their bodies are actually always forming new tissue and growing new tissue, so they have different nutritional needs than adults. I'm not going to say what age children can or can't do keto and all that. I'm not going to get into that, but I think probably for the purposes of what I do, I don't know how relevant that is. I don't really have that many children seeking my advice. If you have pancreatic issues, okay, you could have problems digesting more fats. So you might consult with a doctor with that. Again, this is one of the things that the HCl tablets or the ox bile tablets or something may assist with, but it's something you be aware of, and it's something you should definitely consult with somebody about. Again, I don't know that necessarily precludes you from doing the diet. It's just you're a special case, and so you might want to take some special steps. Now, this is something I don't want to scare you away. But people prone to kidney stones, if you're somebody that has kidney stones a lot, you've had an issue with them, the ketogenic diet can absolutely increase the risk of kidney stones for anybody, not just people who've had a history of kidney stone problems. Now, if you're a person who hasn't had a history of kidney stones your whole life and you're normal in that regard, this is pretty easily offset by having 2-3 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice every day. And it's really basically just that simple. Now, if you do have a history of kidney stones, the lemon juice may help, but you're going to have some special considerations there. Now, if I was a person who had that was prone to kidney stones, would I let that keep me from doing a keto diet? Absolutely not. I'd figure it out and I'd find a way to do it, but that's just me, okay? And that's pretty much it, other than obviously people who are really, really thin probably shouldn't be doing this, but I don't think there's probably a lot of really thin people out there looking to do a keto diet. Obviously have eating disorders like anorexia, bulimia. I mean, you definitely just need to be consulting with a specialist about everything you do, not just keto. So just kind of keep those things in mind, all right? I would say with all those things, you should definitely not automatically preclude a ketogenic diet as a possible answer to your problems. Because as I mentioned when I first started out, several groups of people are the people that would benefit most from a ketogenic diet. So while you may require some special monitoring, you may have to check your blood sugars more often, you may have to check your blood pressure more often, understand that your body's going to be rapidly changing in the first 7 to 10 days. And so things are going to be really wonky. So it's going to be a maybe even a scary roller coaster ride. But I think with proper knowledge, proper supervision, proper consulting, you get through that, you're going to be way the better for it. Especially if you're a type 2 diabetic. You're going to be way the better for it. And I would say that about people that have issues with blood pressure too. A lot of special monitoring. You need to be aware. You need to be alert about things. But at the same time, your blood pressure issues potentially could completely go away. I've read hundreds of people's personal stories of going keto where that happened. So it's kind of like the poison is the pill. And it's not poison. It's just a short-term change. I mean, your body is radically changing physiologically on the inside. You're going from a person who burns carbs primarily for energy to a person who's getting like near zero carbs, and you're now having to convert fat into ketones for energy. So it's a big switch for the body. So I really hope that nothing I said dissuades you or scares you about a ketogenic diet, because I don't know the exact percentages, but I'm throwing this number out there for effect. And please keep that in mind. That's all it is. I'd say 99% of the population fall right into keto with no problem. That being said, if you do have some problems, keto may be the answer. So please do your research. Ask me questions if you'd like. I'll try to answer them. Just keep in mind I'm not a medical professional and I'm not giving medical advice. And if you are in one of those special categories and it concerns you, find you a good doctor that understands keto and will not just scare you about it, but will agree to come up with a monitoring plan for your blood sugar or a monitoring plan for your blood pressure, so that they can affect changes in your life, okay? It's your life. You have the power to change it, and I believe keto could be the answer for a ton of people. It's not a miracle cure for crazy things. It's not saying that by any stretch, but it's like I was talking with somebody that I started coaching today. They have this bad acid reflux. Well, somebody I coached last month, she had bad acid reflux, and I think it was like 7 to 10 days into it, she realized that she didn't have acid reflux anymore. So she doesn't take the Protonics or the, whatever it was she was taking. She doesn't take that anymore. She doesn't need it. It's remarkable what happens when you start eating the right kind of food. So if you would like some personal weight loss coaching with a ketogenic diet, I'm definitely here for that. You just need to shoot me a message on any of the social medias. Once again, my username, no matter what form of social media you like, is Fat Guy Podcast. Personally, I think you should add me on all of them because I share different things on all of them. Download that Spreaker app, Spreaker. Download the Spreaker app. Go search for Fat Guy Podcast. Follow and like, and you'll see everything we've ever done there, and you'll get notified about new upcoming episodes. And thank you so much for listening. Share this. You could literally change somebody's life just by hitting the share button on this episode of the podcast. Literally, it's one of the most powerful things you could do. You never know whose life you're going to change. I'm all about changing lives. That is the reason I wake up every day. It is the thing that keeps me going. Thank you so much for your time. Until next episode, we'll see you then.